What's up guys, it's Matt B. I review running shoes here on YouTube, except when I don't. And when I don't, I talk about running. And that's what we're talking about today. And specifically, we're going to be talking about what happens when we miss a workout and how we deal with that stress of missing a run. So in the next 6 seconds while we roll through the intro, I want you to think about how you deal with it when you have to skip a run. Or I should say skipping a planned run. Let's get into it. Alright guys, do you think about it? Good, because I want you to comment on this video and let me know how you actually deal with it. Anyway, I wanted to talk to you about this subject after I came across an article in Canadian Running Magazine. Again, Canadian Running Magazine for the win. Anyway, that article is titled, "You Shouldn't Try to Make Up a Missed Workout. Here's Why." So here's what I think. I think it's very easy for us to look at other people and kind of roll our eyes when they're getting stressed about missing a workout, right? Missing a workout, especially if you're on a structured training plan, is a lot more difficult than it seems on the surface. We have to take a little bit of introspection, right? If I was complaining to you that, oh, I had to miss my workout yesterday, you guys would be like, Matt, you run all the time. Who cares? You're not going to lose any fitness in a couple of days, or even for that matter, a week. But I think it's one of those things that's a lot different when we're actually experiencing it. And just to be totally upfront with you guys, I am not the one to look to with how to correctly deal with missing a workout. I'm sure I've dealt with it in the past occasionally, but I can't put my finger on a time when I actually have. I'm sure it's happened, but I just can't think of it at this moment. What I can think about and put my finger on are all the times where I have actually stressed about missing a workout. And even worse than that, I have gone out and done a workout or gone for a run, easy run, specific workout. I'm not really differentiating on this video. Like a run is a run is a workout, not a specific workout within your run. Does that make sense? Anyway, there have been times when I shouldn't have gone for a run. I should have taken that day off. I should have missed a run, but I couldn't get out of my head and I went out and did it anyway. And that, almost without a doubt, set me back more than actually taking a rest day. So I can definitely relate with you when you're stressing about missing a workout, and it could be for any number of reasons. I tend to think of sickness being the #1 reason, but we all know it's probably best not to run when you're sick. In fact, it can often do more harm than good. But there are a million other reasons. Well, maybe not a million, but there are a lot of other reasons. And it can probably be boiled down to work, family, life. Maybe your work schedule changes and you can't get your workout, or maybe you have to work late and you can't get that workout in. Family. Family is obviously more important than your running. So when family needs arise and it gets in the way of getting your run in, there are going to be times when you're going to have to do that. And you know that's the right thing, right? You do know that, right? Keeping your family ahead of running is pretty important. If you didn't know, now you know. And then there's life, and life encompasses everything else. There's sickness, there's injury, there's lack of motivation, and all these things are legit reasons for missing your run. And I don't want anyone to feel self-guilt or shame about missing a run. It's all legit. There are a lot of reasons why you may have to miss a run. Or let's just say it might not mean that you have to miss a run, but it means that you want to miss a run. So ultimately, the nugget of the article is that you don't want to overcompensate for that run that you missed. Just because you missed something on one day doesn't mean that you go out and you do it the next day. Or worse, you double up the next day. So you get a specific volume, or you get a number of sets of repeats per week. That isn't how it works. And if you have a coach, just go and ask them. Remember last week, or 2 weeks ago, we were talking about running intervals and how you only think about that interval that you're in at the moment, and then once it's gone, it's gone. You don't think about it again, you're thinking about that interval that you're in. Same concept with running every mile that you're in. At the beginning of a long race, we don't want to look forward, think about how long we've got to run. That's just exhausting. You think about the mile or the kilometer that you're in, you deal with it, and then you let it go when it passes. Same thing is true with your training. And if you miss a day, you move on like it never happened. It didn't happen because you missed it. But even if it did happen, once you get to that next day, it's still in the past. You missed it. And that's how I want you to think about your training when you miss a workout. Look, life's going to happen. And how we deal with it when it happens dictates a lot of other stuff, mostly stress. We don't need to burden ourselves with undue stress. Now, the article points out that our bodies can't differentiate between physical stress and mental stress, right? Stress is stress. So it's probably true that whatever made you miss your workout is contributing some form of stress to your life. We don't need to add to that by worrying about the run that we're missing. And again, I know, easier said than done. I'm also not sure about our bodies not being able to tell the difference between physical stress and mental stress. Because if we run too much, we get stress fractures in our bones. But no matter how much mental stress we're under, we're not going to get a stress fracture. Although maybe that's what a psychotic break is. It's a stress fracture for the mind. Anyway, the best course of action is to be like Adina and let it go. Now, there's another important step to take, and that is to actually recognize why you missed your workout. Now, I already mentioned the 3 areas that it could be from, just to get them all into a small bucket: work, work, family, life, but it's probably going to be to your benefit to actually understand why you missed your workout. If it was because of work, if it was because of family, and even if it's certain parts of life, these are things that are much more important, right? We're obviously not going to lose our job so we can go for a run. So those things are more important. So those are easier to let go. But we have to recognize if it's something like we just don't want to go for a run, if we're not motivated. Now look, I'm all for not going for a run if you're not motivated. Once in a while, that's totally fine. In fact, it probably happens for me more often than I'd like to admit, but it usually presents with me going out for a run with a certain distance in mind, and then I'm not feeling it, so I just cut it short. Now, if a lack of motivation is the reason that you're missing run after run after run, there's probably another issue there, and in that case, I would refer you to think about discipline over motivation, but that's not really what we're talking about. What we're talking about is items that take us away from our running, and we're upset about missing the run. Basically, we're not getting what we want. So I guess the trick here is actually coming up with a mental plan, a plan of action for how we're going to deal with the stress when we have to miss a run. And unfortunately, I don't have a magic pill to actually make this happen. The work's going to have to come from within. And as a runner, you're going to have to give yourself grace, maybe build some coping strategies so you're not stressing out over something so minor. Remember, it's unlikely that you're getting paid to run. We're not professional runners. We do this for fun. And if occasionally we have to miss something that's fun, well, that's just life. Okay, while I was talking, I actually did remember an occasion when I had to take unplanned time off. And I don't remember what year it was, but I do remember that I was coming up on the Celebration Marathon. And the Celebration Marathon is held every January in Celebration, Florida. It's actually one of my favorite Florida marathons. But a couple weeks out before the race, it was right at the end before I started my taper. So I was in the peak weeks, the peak workouts, and I started getting a little discomfort in my foot. And you know, we're often prone to discomfort when we're getting up on the taper phase. A lot of times they are imaginary aches and pains that miraculously go away when we just forget that we're thinking about it. But this was a little different. This I thought was real. So even though my race was 3 or 4 weeks away, I decided to just stop running whatsoever and just see how I fared going into the race. And I didn't run for weeks before it. Now, to be honest, I did go out and run the day before the race just as a little shakeout run because I didn't want to wake up and then drive 3 hours to the race only to find out that my foot still hurt and I couldn't run. So I went out for a very short shakeout run, did some strides, and wouldn't you know it, everything was feeling good. And I went out and I ran Celebration and I had a really good race. And it actually made me think, wow, I didn't run for 3 or 4 weeks before the race and I still performed well. I really have to remember this. This is a lesson. And once you know it, I totally forgot that lesson over the next couple of years. But I guess my point is, especially if you're training for a race, to remember the old adage about it being better to be 10% undertrained than 1% overtrained. And in my instance with the Celebration Marathon, if I'd have continued running, if I didn't take that time off, it's likely I would have had a full-blown running injury that would have kept me off of running for months. Instead, I took some time off, I healed, I was able to do my goal race, and I've recovered well. And the only reason I'm telling you that now is so I can really cement it in my mind. So next time when it happens, I do the same thing. Honestly, where I run into real trouble is when I've got a cold or just when I'm feeling down and I don't feel like going out for a run. I tend to really want to go for a run then. Even if I'm not feeling it, I feel like I need to push myself to get over it. And I know that's the wrong approach, but as always, I would encourage you to do as I say, not as I do. And with that, I do want to hear from you. I want to know what it takes for you to miss a run. Maybe you are one of these dream runners that just misses a run every time you're feeling aches or pains or have a sniffle. If you are one of those runners, good for you. You're doing your body a favor. If you're a streaker, you're probably one of those runners that pushes through no matter what. And if you are, I'd love to hear about the worst run that you've ever been on. How bad have you felt and yet still gone out for a run? Let me know in the comments. And with that, it's Matt B. This video has been about... You guys don't realize this because I cut out such a big pause, but I had a hard time remembering what this video was actually about. I do tend to waffle on when it comes to running, especially when I'm talking about running that involves a little bit of introspection. Anyway, it's Matt B, and this has been a video about what should you do when you miss a workout? Should you stress about it? Should you make it up? Well, the answer is no. Be kind, be happy, run well. I'll see you in a couple of days.